Every time a major tournament rolls around, there's always talk of the players who missed out due to their nations not qualifying, thus denying us, the viewer, the chance to see them performing on the big stage. So today we ask the question, what if they banded together and took on Europe like some kind of big footballing megazord? Using the mysteries of the pre-game editor, we've declared every player for a European nation that didn't qualify for this summer's Euros to a single footballing behemoth known as Rest of Europe. Catchy, right? I don't know where I come up with these zingers. Obviously, we're going to be ignoring the potential geopolitical crisis this would cause were it to happen in real life, because we're inside the bubble of Football Manager, and it's dots on a screen and funny little computer men. We're all about the vibes here. I've used Sweden as the base nation for this purely because of all the nations in Europe that didn't qualify for the summer's Euros, they currently have the highest FIFA rankings, and so they win by default here. And before you think, you're just looking at this one Euro cycle, that could not be further from the truth. Much in the vein of the could X team win the World Cup videos that I did on FM23, we're going to be exploring well into the future, 20 years, possibly even 30, due to something we're going to talk about in a minute. Because I'll also be declaring any regens that come through in the save from one of those nations over to this new footballing supergroup, so to speak, to give them a great chance in the future as well. This new collaboration has a pool of around 120 million people to draw its players from, which you'd think would give them some chance at least in a European Championship, maybe even in the World Cup, because that's going to be a thing as well. Now, of course, with switching so many players over to Rest of Europe nationality, as it were, it is going to weaken those nations in the short term. However, when we come to moving regens over, we're only going to be moving over the cream of the crop, because that would take a ridiculous amount of time otherwise, which will of course make qualification for the Euros easier in the short term, and honestly in the long term as well. But let's face it, with some of the players that this team is going to have, they shouldn't really be having any trouble qualifying anyway. But it won't be weakening the teams that are likely to be competing at these tournaments, and thus we shouldn't see much difference once we're actually reaching the tournaments, which hopefully they do. If they don't, that would be very embarrassing. I'm also using a database setup which has the top leagues in every single one of the nations that I have in the vanilla playable game set to playable, as well as England just for context and stuff to keep things ticking over. And because England have a habit of producing some really good regens in their youth academies that may well have some of the nationalities that we want. I've also used a custom database setup that will add the players from the nations that aren't based in the vanilla game. That way the clubs there still produce regens, and we should still be able to get players coming through those countries as well. So that's enough yapping. Let's actually have a look at what the current squad with these new players for the Rest of Europe actually looks like, and it's pretty strong. Originally, I had actually planned to change the flag and everything like that as well. The issue was that the only thing I could really think of was a European flag, but that's the EU only, and it wouldn't really work with the nations we've got. So I just figured that, hey, Sweden just won, I guess. Needless to say, the squad is pretty stacked. Just looking at this overall, you can see there's a general pattern of the nations that the players have sort of come over from. Looking at the goalkeepers here, Kevin Kelleher, Lukas Radecki of Finland in there as well. The backline with the likes of Stefan Savic, Matt Doherty in there too, with Christopher Ayer, Ben Davis of Wales, Kostas Tsimikas of Greece, which is a reasonably strong defence. But where this team really seems to have teeth is in its forward line, because it is stacked, particularly in that strike force where you've got Erling Haaland, Viktor Gyökeres, and not to mention the stallion of still playing international football at the age of 37, Edin Dzeko. What a super sub he could be, with support from people like Manuel Solomon, Brennan Johnson, Martin Ødegaard sitting a bit deeper, Dejan Kulusevski, Henrik Mkhitaryan as well still in there. There is a lot of good players, and not to mention a lot of youth players that could potentially be coming through from countries like Norway, especially with the likes of Andreas Schjelderup, people like that could very much make an impact in this team in the future. Not to mention all the regens that will hopefully come through. Now, I expect most of the players that will end up actually declaring when we switch them over as regens will come from a smaller pool of nations, just because they have higher youth ratings, which my guess would be most of the nations that you can essentially see here. Although, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the occasional Bulgarian player also get across, because who hasn't had a save where there's some absolutely goated Bulgarian wonder kid? I know I haven't, every single time. I'll be legitimately amazed if this team is incapable of at least reaching a final of some kind of major tournament, especially with some of the quality that's likely to come through. Now, this idea actually came about from an idea I was working on in the past, where I was essentially going to try and make a rest of the world team based on every nation that was outside the top 120 in FIFA's world rankings, and then see if they could qualify for a World Cup. That was something I was working on, but then the Euros came round, and I thought, you know what, that would actually be quite a fun video to make, and here we are. You're all caught up to date. But if you would like to see that video, do let me know, and I'd be happy to make it, even if it is a very time-consuming endeavour, as you can imagine, because there's like 80 countries. We're going to be progressing in 2-year increments, that way there is always a major tournament in each of the updates. In addition, at each stopping point, we'll be checking in on the players that fit the new requirements, i.e. I'm going to say a PA threshold of around 140, although I'll adjust it depending on what sort of players are actually coming through, because if there's not enough players, then we can obviously drop it a little bit further down, particularly as if there's time, I want to go past the normal 20-year mark that we do with these videos and possibly push to 30. It will depend entirely on time. Unless they've won like 3 Euros in a row and I feel like my work is done, then I might just dip out at that point. Seems unlikely though. As for world rankings, they start technically in 23rd, although I think that, I don't know if that would change. This is literally the first date of the save, so we might be able to skip ahead and see what happens there. I would like to see them top 10. I think that's pretty likely. Top 5, I would say I would be happy with. I want to see them win a European Championship. I'd like to see them go quite deep in the World Cup too, but obviously the pool of players they're up against there is going to be much more difficult. It will just depend heavily on luck and what players can come through and what the current lads are going to do. So I feel like right now might be the best time to just jump ahead to our first update, which is actually going to be 2.5 years into the future, because we want to do it in December just because it keeps things a little bit easier to keep track of. So here we are, December 31st, 2025. So we're 2.5 years in, but it'll be 2-year steps from here until the rest. It just makes it easier for the simming. We'll check out the results first, and then we'll move over and have a look if there's any players that we can move over. I fail to see how there wouldn't be, but if there isn't, then we will adjust the threshold downwards. So, rest of Europe time. Where are we at? They're bound to have gone up the ratings just based on everything else. You notice there's actually a rest of the world nation in here too. What a name that is. Xenophon Christenon, already up to 11th. New manager, in fact, with Lucien Favre in there too. The team might have changed slightly, but you'll notice that actually most of the top players are the same players as before, with the exception of Rooney Badaji, who's at Chelsea now, who of course is Swedish. So, Euro qualifiers went pretty swimmingly, you could say. I mean, look at that. Forgot about Alexander Isak as well. Swedish legend. I mean, beating Estonia, beating Azerbaijan, beating Belgium, Austria, Estonia. They're not massive wins, though. They're just decent wins. So I'm actually quite surprised by that they've not been like overwhelmingly good. Now, it will take a little while for the smaller nations that have obviously had their players moved over to develop players of their own again, but they're actually not doing too badly. Well, I didn't think they'd actually be able to qualify for the current Euros. I was under the impression that that was sort of locked in, but then I just realised there was actually some Euro qualifiers due to the date of the start. I guess we should change the title to, could they win multiple European Championships over the period of this? When you're planning videos like this, you're not expecting things like this to actually go as simply as that. Usually it's a bit more difficult than that, but they actually won the Euros in the very first season. Onto the World Cup, going for those repeats as well, I guess. Also, note that Andreas Sheldrup actually made the team and actually scored the winning goal in the final. I mean, you can see the sort of results they had in the friendlies. Christopher Ayer, by the way, what a performance with a goal in both the group stage games. But you can see that they weren't like battering teams. Teams that especially, particularly like North Macedonia, would not have actually had players in their squads for the most part. So they actually managed to qualify off the back of their existing results and did pretty well there. Needless to say, that has actually surprised me. I didn't think that they'd be able to do it. I thought it was going to take them bringing through some incredible talent in like the regens and stuff to push them up to that level, because I didn't think this squad would be good enough to do it by themselves. But needless to say, we've got that. You're thinking of switching off now, and I don't really blame you, but I feel like there's a lot more crazy stuff that's yet to happen, so stay tuned. Andreas Sheldrup in the 94th minute wins the European Championship for rest of Europe. Well, I guess that answers our initial question, but I still have so many more questions, and if you've watched one of these sort of could X do Y videos from last year, you'll know that there's a lot more stuff that's yet to happen, as you'll note from how they're playing in the Nations League. Now, of course, they're in Nations League Group C, so just from looking at it, you can see how much they've absolutely battered teams at 8-2. They did concede twice to the Faroes, though. So into the next season, into World Cup qualifiers, and you can see that the results, I mean, they're still pretty stable. They're winning a lot of games, but they're not battering teams that you wouldn't expect them to, I suppose. Yeah, they did actually score 25 goals over that period. Harry Kane got 22 goals in World Cup qualifying, with Haaland getting 17 goals over the course of this, but 22 for Harry Kane is excessive. Just calm down, Harry. Now, of course, what that means is they're going to have schedules coming up here, presumably next season, going into the next World Cup. I wouldn't be surprised if they could go quite deep. They've already won. I still can't believe they've already won a bloody Euros. But with that in mind, let's now go have a look at some players that could join the ranks of these guys, not immediately, but hopefully there's some decent PA guys in here. So what I've done basically is set up a shortlist search on the thing that has players between the ages of 15 and 18, and one of their nationalities essentially is one of the nationalities that we need to switch over, and then we'll do and work our way through that. So, oh my god. I think the future's quite bright for them. Rory Doyle of Palace there with a 182. Good Christ. And then Danny Lavelle, who's actually a Patreon regen, but came through at Fuenlabrada. He certainly wasn't anywhere near as good as that on the other save. He is 180 as well. So that's a lot. And also, Sedin Mustafic of RZ with a 174 for Bosnia and Herzegovina. He could be crazy too. The fact that there's 3 Irish players that have come through at this kind of level, I almost feel bad that we're robbing Ireland of these players, but they're going to help us win things. These guys alone, I feel like, could potentially win Euros by themselves one day with this little collection of players. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see other Imagine if they didn't win any more European championships in the rest of this test. Either way, I'm going to move all of these guys over, maybe down to like, to be honest, 140 seems like a reasonable amount. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. So, to 2027, where, I mean, what do you reckon? Back-to-back World Cup and Euros doubles? Seems likely, right? So, 2 years later, God knows what befalls us now, but I suspect it's likely to be good things. Still 11th in the world. Another new manager, this time Andreas Alm. That's interesting to me. Most of the top players are also the same. We'll actually have a look at the squad this time around after we've seen the fixtures. They did get up as far as 8th, but have actually dropped down again, which part of me thinks that perhaps that is mean that they didn't actually do that well at the World Cup, and maybe at the top level they just didn't quite have it. Maybe they just got lucky with that Euros win. So this is where we got to last time. What happened in 2026? I want to see a World Cup win. Oh wow, I are disappointed. Emphatically disappointed. They also... well, I mean, for want of a better phrase, bollocks did up against Scotland, so up the Scots, I guess. Now, of course, Scotland wouldn't have had any players moved over, so their team is actually going to be likely very strong. But yeah, this is their World Cup. They did beat Brazil. Haaland and Sheldrup, well, the Norwegians are carrying a little bit at the moment, but, you know, Norwegians and Swedish players, in fact, I think was all of them. I think every goal in the World Cup was scored by Norwegians and Swedes. Yep, I'm fairly certain that was the case. Needless to say, great win against Brazil, solid win against Saudi, brilliant win against Guinea as well, like a 6-0 hammering there with lots of goals, and then they just go out to Belgium. Don't know if it's actually clickable. It is. Oh, that is an absolute travesty. Absolutely hammered Belgium, but Haaland gave them the lead, Lukaku with the equaliser, and then Astor Ranks gets the winning goal, and they're out in the second round of the World Cup. See, this is more like what I was expecting. And in the Nations League, in League B, I don't know if that's even going to be enough to win it, is it? Let's just check in the next year. Oh, it's back to Euro qualifiers, although that seems to be going averagely as well. So they did actually win Nations League Group B, which means they will be in Group A next time at least, but they had some relatively disappointing results against Scotland in there. As for the European qualifiers, it's certainly not been as straightforward as it was last time. A draw away at Turkey, a loss away at Hungary, relatively strong results against Northern Ireland and Greece in there too, but not emphatic. That should have been enough to qualify them though, right? Importantly though, they did win their group, this time only with a plus 16 goal difference, and actually only by 1 point over Hungary, so they will be at the next Euros. Can they do the repeat? So has it really changed all that much? So Gavin Bazunu's now into it, as is David Peretz in there too. Nathan Collins up in there as well with Ethan Ampadu. There definitely have been some changes. It seems like they've sort of added a little bit more youth, but not a lot, if I'm honest. Oscar Bob actually has managed to sneak in there too at 24, along with Oscar Gluck and Rooney Badaji. So they have got some more players coming in there, along with Jurgen Strand Larsen as well of Villarreal. It still looks like a decent team, but I feel like some of the older players have definitely retired. So you likes of Edin Dzeko, Henrik Mkhitaryan. They've also got Sverre Holstad Nipan in there of Tottenham, and he is, as you know, no, not of Tottenham, of Man United. He's an insanely highly rated player. Oh my lord, well, I mean, it has, to an extent. Maybe not quite the extent of last time. We've got two absolute stars there, Ronnie Dadia of Ashdod and then Makis Konteon of PAOK, 172 and 180 respectively, and he's only 16 as well. These guys, I think, are going to have a very bright future in this squad. It does drop off quite a bit after that. There's a free guy at Barry Town. Wow, that's actually kind of dope. And, really annoyingly, if you're me and doing a Malta save, a Maltese player with 150 PA. Where's he on my other save when I really need him? Because they're both attacking players. It'd be lovely to get some good defenders through. So I'm going to go all the way down to like maybe, well, I guess 140. That seems fair. We'll just do that every time. The way this game likes to disappoint me, I genuinely feel like they won't win another major tournament for the entire rest of the save now. What have they been up to? Have they at least managed to get top 10 this time and actually stuck there perhaps? And, oh no, they've slipped even further. Still got the same manager though, so there is that. So this was the European qualifiers. How did they actually get on at the Euros? Now bear in mind, I'm not actually looking at these because I have to switch back 2 years, but I just close my eyes when I get on the right place. So, European champion, oh wow. That's quite a turn up for the books there. Beat Poland and Hungary in the groups with Andreas Sheldrup, Oscar Gluck and Martin Ødegaard. Haaland continues to score a lot of goals, but they lost to France in the group and then were beaten 1-0 by Serbia, thanks to a goal from who else but Alexander Mitrovic, and well, it was a tight game, but they just weren't able to bury it. And that's 2 second round exits now, this one at Celtic Park, in back-to-back tournaments. Yes, it is. They actually came second in the group with 10 points. I think that overcoming a nation like France in here is going to be the real difficulty. Then again, they managed it in the European final. What about this year? Because it's going to be Nations League and World Cup qualifiers. Presumably they would have relatively easily waltzed their way through that group, although Czechia would have presented quite a challenge in there too, because they obviously will still have a complete squad, as will Albania actually, as it happens. But you can see that it really is the same players doing a lot. I want to see how many goals Haaland's got. 99 goals in 92 caps. But again, it wasn't like a completely overwhelming performance. They're plus 14 goal difference, 18 points on the board. They will be at the next World Cup. That was quite an interesting group actually. Liechtenstein actually did an awful job of it yet again. They really do just get drawn against Germany a lot, don't they? 28 of those goals were just against Germany alone. I'm so sorry, Liechtenstein. Quick little check-in on the national team. Just wanted to see if there was any guys called up from before, but it doesn't appear that there has been. Yona Kusi Asari? No, he's a real player. And I don't believe this guy... Oh, he is! Wow! He hasn't actually got any caps yet, but I think he's the first regen I've actually seen in there. He wasn't one of the ones with super high PA. You can tell, obviously, that he was born in Latvia, but he has developed very, very nicely indeed. Okay. So that is what we would probably call a bit of a fallow year, you might say. A couple of stars there with Varhol and Fazic. I mean, admittedly, these guys are still like 160 around PA, which is still a large amount. It's whether they'll reach that or not, I don't know. But compared to the other years we've had so far, it's not been quite the same level of player. So there's a lot less players for us to really move across this time. But Sveinfjord Varhol and Jason Fazic will definitely be getting themselves across too. And I could easily see some of these guys maybe not making an impact. But then again, like, I'm looking at these guys now and thinking, is 149 even going to get you near the national team? Top guy as well, pretty damn decent. Already played a few games for Mulder's second side, but he is only 16, so he's going to take a while to get into the team, I would have thought. But nevertheless, we move. It's going to be back into World Cup and Euro qualifying this time around. Right then, what have you got for me? I just want to see top 10 again, honestly. Oh my days. New manager in Jonas Olsson. Either way, they've actually slumped all the way down to 17th now. And it's mostly the same players at the very top of the squad. But that suggests to me they've had another poor World Cup again. So that was the World Cup qualifiers. If I had to guess, it feels like another sort of second round exit, maybe one round before that. Again, they've really struggled there. They got a 4-4 with the Netherlands, which is brilliant. Haaland gets a hat-trick in that game. Get a 1-0 win over Chile, then a 4-1 over Algeria with yet more goals from Haaland, and also a goal from our young regen. I think that might be the first regen to actually score a goal. Oh, no, maybe not. Rory Doyle. Bang, there he is, gets a 1 in a friendly against Finland as well. But then a 1-0 exit in the second round of the World Cup to Argentina. So that's 3 second round exits of major tournaments in a row after winning it. I really hope they don't just do this for the rest of the save. I feel like as some of the bigger players retire, we start to see more of these regens coming through, give them a chance to develop. Once they hit sort of 25, 26, I think we'll start to see them come back up again. But Nations League group, yeah, they they survived fairly easily, but actually arguably a worse performance than they did last time around. So what about in Euros qualifying? Hopefully they've made the light work of European qualifying, although they were in a group with Andorra, Gibraltar. That's a fairly straightforward group. They've still got draws against Finland and Romania, though. 128 goals? A better time, I'd say. Plus 36 goal difference. I think having Gibraltar and Andorra in the same group definitely helped them pad the stats a little bit there, with Haaland grabbing 17 goals over that period. So they will be at the next Euros. Hopefully they'll actually do something there. With Aflam Lensnjö, now I wouldn't have actually seen this guy because he came through at a Swedish club, which means he would have had Swedish nationality to begin with, so I wouldn't have actually had to move him over. So that's cool. How good is he? Wow, he's already maxed potential at 23. Okay, so he may not survive that long if any better players come along, but that's still dope. Interestingly, no place for the likes of Rory Doyle or any of the guys we moved over just yet anyway. But you can see that a lot of these chaps are now congregating in the under-21 squad, which is giving a little bit of that. It seems like some of the guys might have aged out of the under-21 squad and haven't quite reached the level to be able to play into the main squad. Oh, baby. Martin Omar of Mulder, 186. That's like 2 shy of Erling Haaland levels. And also Raymond Cully of Linfield, 173. And there you go. Lakazar Abdikov of Septemvri Sofia of 170 as well. This is an absolute cream of the crop year with some absolutely really good top-end players. Omar, Cully and Abdikov, those 3 right there. And honestly, Amsterdam as well. That little cluster and the Cypriot dude as well. That's a really good year of players to come through. Now, albeit they're all 17 and 16, so we're probably not going to see them in the national team for a good 5-6 years, unless they are truly incredible. Which, in fairness, Raymond Cully does have 121 CA already, and I suppose that's probably because he's already played 38 games for Linfield at the age of 17. So we've reached the 10-year point, and to me, this has been pretty successful so far. I think without that Euros win in the early stages, I'd be very disappointed, but I really do hope they can win another one as well, just to or at least reach another final of something. 16th, so they dropped all the way down to 20th at one point. New manager in Magnus Powell. Andreas Sheldrup of Liverpool's now moved up onto this list too with Oscar Bob in there. So they had the European qualifiers, and then at the Euros, they lost in the second round again. Oh, that's a really, really poor time of it, in fact. The fact that they lost to Croatia, lost to Ukraine, only got through presumably as a third place team because Erling Haaland scored a hat-trick, because of course he did, then to go out 5-3 to France in the second round, the team they beat in the final not that long ago. They really are in what is it with the second round? Are they cursed? We will be keeping an eye on Haaland's goal-scoring threats as well, because he must be getting close to 154 now. Either way, Nations League looks to have gone a lot better, and I tell you what, I wonder if that's enough for them to actually win Group 1 here in Nations League A. It is enough. That win against France was enough, and they've actually won a Nations League group, so that's probably what boosted their ranking over the last month or so. Sorting it by age just gives us an idea. Yeah, they've really lightened up on this now with the likes of Drew Bershi, who's another regen, David Vord, who I guess came through at a Swedish club again. Yeah, EFK Göteborg, incredible player. But they've also added Rory Doyle, finally, who's now got 5 caps while playing for Juventus. How's he looking these days? Good, sweet Jesus. The moment Haaland retires, I feel like Rory Doyle is just going to be the man, although he's 25 already. Look at his value. But they've also and there's Daniel Andrews. He was the guy that was at Barry Town, was he not, at the very beginning? So he went to Ipswich, then to Aston Villa, and he's still only 22. 9 caps as well for him. Hopefully it can bless us with some more absolute monsters to move over. Come on. Okay. I can't be disappointed because we've only got 2 guys in the sort of close to 170 range, but still, that looks like it's more depth to it. It's less like top-end guys, but more sort of 140 plus. There's also Armenian player in here too, another Bulgarian, a San Marinese dude. If you're like me and you get excited by seeing high potential players from like San Marino, Andorra, Gibraltar, etc., I feel like this might be the video for you. That's amazing. 156 PA for Matteo Zaffarani. Again, I almost feel bad moving him over, but he's going to have to play for this too. I love that for him. A couple of good Finns in there, 2 amazing Greeks, particularly Panagiotis Skoutelis of 170. They're surely going to win another Euros, right? Particularly with this guy, Atle Olsrud, as well, who again is actually a region. It's just I have my Zgen pack, so it's using the IDs a bit wrong, so ignore a lot of the faces. These guys are obviously all regions. Already has 2 caps for Norway, which is crazy. He will obviously get moved over now because the fact that he's been straight into the national team is insane. So he, for me, feels like another potential monster. Let's go to 2035 and see if this is the ship has started to turn around. Might be the perfect time for me to say if you've enjoyed this video so far, drop a like, I'd appreciate that, and subscribe if you're new. Apologies that I talk quite fast. I've been trying to slow down. It's not easy. Not when I get excited about things like San Marinese players. Ah, right. Good stuff. Also, key player, Ronnie Dadia. He is now the daddy, it seems, of this team. Has he actually moved on to this list? He actually hasn't. I think this does it a lot by reputation more than pure quality, though. Back up to 11th. Lots of good stuff happening there. I think that means they must have gone a little bit deeper into the latest tournament, which is the World Cup 2. We've only seen them reach the 2nd round so far. Yeah, he's getting a little bit crazy good now, actually. 49 caps. Good. Has he played every game in the last 2 years? Just occurred to me, we didn't actually look at World Cup qualifying last time. We got so hung up on the Euros exit. Luckily, they did qualify for the World Cup, relatively comfortably, losing just the 1 game to... that was the Nations League, in fact. They lost in the Nations League semi-final to Italy, but then won the 3rd place playoff. There you go. A bronze medal in the Nations League. It's what you're all here for. But then it looks like they've kind of walked through World Cup qualifying after that. But have they done better? Or is this success due to the Nations League? Come on. Better than a 2nd round. Yes! No 2nd round exit this time. But they did drop points to Saudi Arabia in there too, which is a little bit disappointing. Good win over Senegal. Rory Doyle, Andres Sheldrop in there too. 2 more goals for Rory Doyle. It seems to me like Erling Haaland has sort of been not phased out, but isn't playing as often because Rory Doyle's getting game time for the national team now. 6-2 in the round of 16 as well. But then unfortunately, France, the older enemy, knocked them out again with a goal from Rory Doyle in there as well. How is Rory Doyle looking these days then? 27 years old, 19 caps and 9 goals. The problem with him, frankly, is that he was kept out of the team by Erling Haaland. It feels like he's never going to be able to really be that prolific, and he's at least played a lot for Juve, though, so he should be reaching a decent level of potential, but he's never going to get the chance to get that many caps because it's taken so long to Haaland to move out the way. Nations League, though, that doesn't look like a Nations League group win, I would say. No, in fact, with England and Scotland in there, they actually only finished on 9 points in the end, but they've already shown that they can get to a Nations League final. I don't think this will be the last. They're back up to 11th in the table. Really good news. This time I'm not going to forget about the current year. Oh, they got Liechtenstein in their group. Right, who's been stat padding against Liechtenstein then? A 17-0 and a 16-0. That's 33 goals. They actually conceded one to them, which is honestly a national shame. Got a draw with Ireland in there too, which is fairly impressive considering that they would have probably had enough time over the last few years to regenerate a reasonable squad by this point, but still, presumably that means they did in fact win their group. If you notice any like mad results in here, by the way, do let me know in the comments. It's just trying to keep the video not insanely long if I can do, but that's a hell of -96, 172. I think he's surely likely to retire fairly soon. Then again, I'm actually not sure. He's still got another 2 years left on his deal at Real Madrid. Either way, they will be in the next Euros, and after that World Cup success of reaching the quarterfinals, albeit going out, I feel like this could be primed for a deeper Euros run now. It feels like the ship is turning around. Quick little check on the squad. There we go. Raymond Cully. Bang. He's in there as well. Ulf Henriksen, he just sounds like a guy that came through a Swedish club as well. Maybe a guy that... Oh, he came through a Swedish club as well. Sweden's killing it, actually. Daniel Lavelle doing bits in there. Rory Doyle with 19 caps. Trying to think who's got the most caps of the regions. It might actually be Daniel Andrews. No, of course not. It's Ronnie Daddy with 49. But Daniel Andrews with 27 caps, who came through at Barry Town, remember? But Fazic, also Raymond Cully, now at Norwich City. He's worth a lot of money, and he's 12 caps at the age of 21. I feel like he's going to be a guy that's going to be in this squad for a very long time. Particularly as he's one of our Man City, I feel like he could be an elite footballer and could be the backbone for a very long time. Yeah, look at the state of the potential ability of that under-21 squad. People like Skoutelis in there with 170, Constantino in there, Pupetti as well, presumably of Finland. Lots of guys above 150. This is cooking. And in the full senior squad, well, I mean, you can see, look at the top-end talent that they've got in this squad now. And there's still players that are way below that as well, very much getting towards that. And I think it's only going to get better from here, in theory. So let's find out if there's going to be anyone else to join them. Oh, wow. Not a plum year. There's Dudu Cohen Cohen, Gareth Breslin here of Luton Town. Then it drops off fairly quickly. Another top-quality Bulgarian. Just have a little look, see if there is any other nationalities that we don't normally see getting in there. It's mostly the same nationalities. It's not a great year, but still some solid talent, just not quite compared to some of the others. We've not got... I want to see if we get a guy that's in like the 190s. That would be incredible. I think the highest we've seen so far was Martin Omar, the 186. Speaking of, where's he up to? So he's actually still at Mulder at the moment, at 21 years old. He's played a lot for Mulder. Who's he wanted by? Please tell me it's someone... Ooh. Are we ever going to see Martin Omar even really make an impact? So 2037 is upon us. I want to see like another Euros final or something, or another win. Oh, wow. Okay. That has to mean good things. Also, shout out to Daniel Lavelle becoming... Oh, wait a minute, maybe not. Forsberg Lind as well. Yeah, another Swede. So 2 players have now reached this list, but that is a huge step. Up to... Was that 4? No, yeah, 4th is the highest where they currently are, and that means that I reckon they've won another Euros. Surely, right? So they qualify for it. Did they do well? Yes, there we go. They've won another European Championship. It took a little while. In fact, it took them 14 years. But now I feel like that's more like it. In fact, they've absolutely waltzed the European Championship this time. Haaland with another hat-trick there, but Daniel Lavelle getting in there too. Daniel Andrews getting another one. Ronnie Dadia in there as well. It's still quite a lot of core players from the initial squad still, though. With the additions of like Dadia and Danny Lavelle, Raymond Cully in there as well. Jari Hurtala in there too. A 4-0 victory in the final over Italy. Do you know why they won this? Because they didn't have to play France. Either way, a second European Championship is theirs, and that's just nice to see. That's really what we wanted. I feel like we can rest easy now. The original squad won one, and now the sort of hybrid squad has got one. Maybe the all-regen team could win one in the remaining years. What about the World Cup qualifiers? Relatively straightforward, it looks like. That should be in fact, there's no real doubt about it. They haven't lost a game. Of course, they've qualified for the latest World Cup. Haaland is still playing. He's got 196 goals. Oh, can he go? He's got a contract extension. Can he get to 200 goals? That would be mad, because I don't see anyone else getting close. Like Rory Doyle is 29 now, has only got 22 goals in 37 caps, which is very good, mind. Quick little check-in on the squad here. So yeah, some more young players. So Skutelis has got in there too. So is Hataya. There's a guy called Ali, who I'm guessing has come through at a Swedish club as well. Yeah, EFK Göteborg. There's a couple of stalwarts, notably no Erling Haaland. The highest cap winner of the region so far, though, is actually Bergins in there too, but lots of them have also got some. But I don't know how much he's actually playing, and that's the issue, really, for him. Actually went to Greece first, interestingly. Now to Liverpool. Maybe this is a chance for him to get going, but I'd have thought that if he was going to get like a legacy career, he would need to have been getting caps by now. That's disappointing as hell. But they've won another Euros. They're up to 4th. Is there any... Come on, give me some quality this year at least. Oh... I love that I'm disappointed when I don't see a 160 player, but it does seem to be a bit of a down year. I've noticed that Norway hasn't dumped in as many quality players as in recent years either, but it does look like there's a bit of a fallow period. We'll move the guys over anyway and get to 2039, where that World Cup beckons, and I want to see more than second round. If they meet France, I swear to God, oh dear. Never mind, it looks like they topped out of 4th place and then went joink, which suggests to me another poor performance on the international stage there. Ronnie Dadia is now up there on the top players, along with Zenon Fezic. Let's have a look at old Fezic at 27 years old. Plays for Tottenham, but still only 26 caps for him as well. Decent player. I mean, he's a world-class player. They've got a lot of these. Like, Dadia is still there. 93 caps, though, at 28. He's probably still their leading star. I'm just very disappointed about Martin Omar. So let's see what's caused this. This has to be another second-round exit, doesn't it? Actually, one thing. Let's check Erling Haaland. He's got it! He's retiring at the end of this year at 39, but he got his 201 goals. So they qualify for the World Cup. Did they reach it? And by the way, the reason I'm doing it like this with the off-center years, I probably should have explained earlier, is that way the first year that I see when I come back, which I'm not even seeing, isn't actually the tournament, it's just qualifiers. But obviously I'm going back twice by clicking anyway. It means I don't get any spoilers, essentially. So, let's see. Did they do well at the World Cup? Oh, for goodness sake. Was it France? No, it was Brazil. To be fair, the question posed in this video was, can they win the Euros? Not can they win the World Cup, because I think we're getting a fairly resounding answer to that. They beat New Zealand, drew with Japan, and then 2 goals from Rory Doyle weren't enough to sort of see them propelled as they go out in the second round of the World Cup again. And I'll tell you what, that's an incredibly stacked set of games in the Nations League. I don't know if that's going to be enough. That's only 6 points. Oh, they barely survive in the Nations League as well. In fact, what happened in the previous Nations League? Did they actually manage to... I'm curious now. Oh, they won. I've literally just realised they won a Nations League as well. I totally forgot about that. So they did, in fact, win a Nations League too. I didn't even think to check. So that's nice to see. So they've got 2 Euros and a Nations League and a 3rd place in the Nations League. Ah, there you go. Martin Omar scored a goal in the Nations League, which means he must be in the squad now. About bloody time. Let's go check on that in a second. They've got Andorra in their Euros qualifying group. They're going to be easily getting in there. Is there any more goals from Martin Omar? There is, which means... Whoa, he has hit the ground running. 17 caps now, 9 goals. Albeit he's 25, but he is a world-class midfielder already. I think we're going to start to see a period of dominance. I'm really glad for him, though, because I was worried for a second. That's good to see, though. Into the next Euros. Can they win one more? let's have a look at the squad just quickly to check. Is there any new names that we will recognize in here? I love that Haaland's still in the squad. So not really. They haven't really brought that many new guys through. Constantinu at least has been moved up a little bit, but Martin Omar's into the squad now. It's mostly the same players, lately anyway. Skutelis is the latest one to get in there, and Dudu Euron, of course, is the youngest of this bunch. But, oh yes, much more like it. Greece delivering yet again. Avram Giannitsis with a 183. We've got 176 as well. Jesper Lippert from Norway too as a Cypriot. Nice. We haven't had a Cypriot, I don't think, yet. And an Estonian, and he will make the cut as well. Okay, that's a really fun year. Some really top-end talent. Now, whether they'll reach that, I don't know. But, like, I mean, let's have a look at this chap here. Fullback. I don't think we've actually seen a fullback so far. Plays for Herakles. Already playing too, which is good for his development. Shakir Peleg as well. Bloody hell. With that kind of professionalism, what's this injury? Please don't be too serious. It's not too bad. I think he could reach the top level as well. So the original plan was to go to 2043. But what I might do is, once we reach 2043, I might just go 10 years into the future, but still stop it every 2 years, but then to not look at the results, just move some players over, and then just see where we can get to maybe in that period. But they've already won 2 Euros, so I'm pretty happy with that. Wow, they have just flatlined, literally flatlined. I don't think I've ever seen a world ranking be so stable, but in a kind of negative way. Martin Omar's now a key player. It's taken him a while to get there, but that little quartet of Daniel Andros, Raymond Cully, and Martin Omar have been crucial, I think, over the last few years for them. But it doesn't appear to have done them much good. Did they get anything useful? Second round exit to Spain. No in-betweens. So either we win the damn thing or we're out in the second round. Yeah, drew in the group to Ukraine. Did beat Scotland very nicely. Rory Doyle still being an absolutely crucial player for them, but then going out. Nice to see Skutelis get a result there. Nations League looks like it's gone a little bit better this time around. 3 wins and a draw. Probably not going to be enough for them to get the win overall. No, they do slump behind France again, but they've managed to stabilise there. Any youngsters getting their way into the national team now? Marc-Lian Rallis, who we definitely highlighted earlier. It took him a little while to get in there, but he has managed to do so, as is Luis Muzinga as well, who's now at Newcastle. Very much taken over now a little bit in this team, although he is injured currently while at Juve. Oh no. 7 to 11 months. That might not be a career ender, but that could potentially be the sort of thing that not kills his international career, but seriously harms their chances of success, because he's clearly a linchpin in the midfield. We'll about to have a look at Rory Doyle here. 76 caps and 37 goals. I mean, he's still an elite player, but I feel like he's going to be retiring fairly soon now. So I wanted to get an eye on him before he inevitably retired. Let's see if there actually is anyone worthy of it. Oh! Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Barajdat Barsegian, 184 PA from Punic. That's dope. Please don't tell me this is a severe injury. That's a virus. He's all good. But also Finland cooking, as well as Belarus. It's because he's come from Club Brugge. That's dope. Really nice batch of players there. He's the sort of guy that will definitely make an impact if we do that 10-year plus bit. Yep, they've won every game. And they had Liechtenstein in their group again, along with Armenia, and actually had quite a lot of nations in this group that would not have had players to begin with, although they've seemingly bounced back a little bit. We'll have a quick look at the qualifiers. I know I haven't shown them the last couple of times, so it should have evened out a little bit more, though Malta are still terrible, sorry to say. Win that group fairly easily. Liechtenstein, they love a minus 96, don't they? They really do. 2043, they had a World Cup. I think we might just do the extra bonus bit on the end, because why the hell not, right? 9th. They have bopped up as far as 8th. Raymond Cully's now the captain. Stavropoulos as well has become the vice-captain too. Another player that came through at a Swedish club. Goalkeeper too. Just anything that's not a second round exit I will take. There we go. Slightly better. They did at least get through the second round. Great wins in the group. Like absolutely trouncing teams left and right in there, with Bjorn Forsberg Lind in there, the Spurs guy. I think he was a Spurs guy. Or did he come through at a Swedish club? No, of course he did. He was at Spurs, or still is. Had Thailand in there too. Beat South Korea on penalties, and Algeria, of course, but then went out to Switzerland in the quarterfinal. It's weird considering that's a European side that you thought they'd be able to beat, but I guess not. Nations League Group A, that's surely a group win, though, with those draws against Spain. That's surely another Nations League win. It is. Can they win at least another Nations League? I guess we're going to find out. We'll have a look at some of the players to move over before we go to the full 10 years, because I don't want to go year by year for the remaining 10 years, because it would just take so long. Any craziness? I mean, yes, 2 more. Wow, 3 guys over 170. In the same cycle. Eli Ben Shitterit, Cameron Smith of Wales as well, and Robert Garshol of Christensen. And also, what a great name. Why is that so hard to say? Will Doyle Hayes. That shouldn't be a tongue twister, but it is. So let's get these guys moved over and now go 10 more years to see if there's any magic over that final 10-year period. But I'm happy with 2 Euros, a Nations League win. Just give me some World Cup success, I beg of you. Right, let's get ahead. Oh, wait, no, they've come up to 3rd. So it seems like, since it was 10 years ago, they were all the way down here in 9th, which is where they were. Then they seem to climb steadily over the last 10 years. Now, most of these guys, obviously, in this first team, we're not going to recognise, although we do recognise these names, particularly Varajdat Barsegian, who was the insane Armenian dude. And there's Robert Garshol, too, from the last one, and Eli Ben Shitterit. So these guys have obviously definitely had good careers, but they've been up to 3rd. They must have won something, surely. And they lost it. They did get through. They beat England at least, with Scutellas and Daniel Andrews doing bits yet again. Relatively easy by the looks of it Euros qualifying group. Did that then translate into some Euro success? It must have done, surely. Ah, bugger. So they did get through at least to the semi-finals, but went out 3-0 to England. And that right there looks like a Nations League F, because there's no way they're surviving that. That's really bad, actually. 5-0. Bear in mind, I have still been moving players across every 2 years, just without looking at the results. But that is really disappointing. Obviously, that means they would have presumably, although we can't see it because it was a while ago, right? But still, there's no way they're not in Nations League Group B next year. Will be a walk in the park for them, I suspect. But what about World Cup qualifying? Relatively straightforward. This time they had Malta. Victor Anderson as well, with an absolute monster set of goals over that period. He seems to have become their latest sort of... Oh, he's actually retired. Yeah, he was a Spurs player. Ended up getting 54 caps. There was just so many quality players. They just could never get enough caps, it would seem. So at the World Cup, did they achieve anything? Second round. This time to England. What are you doing this to me? 9-0 win over Canada's pretty sick. With a guy that actually sounds slightly Canadian himself. Pierre Jorgensen, who presumably was Swedish when he came through, but he's also half Japanese. Which I love that. But it is disappointing to see that yet again. Nations League Group B, that's surely an easy promotion. Wait, they were still in Group A? Hang on a minute. Oh my God, they actually stayed up. Ukraine came even lower than them and they stayed up with 4 points. No way. It's a fair play. And then they had a much better time of it, and that might even have been enough for a win. In fact, it was. So they did get through to the next Nations League. That's a hell of a turnaround. So the next year is going to be Nations League. Can they win another one? And Euros qualifying. They lose another Nations League final. Actually lost their first qualifying game for the Euros, but it seems like they kind of made up for it after that, and I suspect that would still be enough for them to win the group and qualify for yet another Euros. Quarter-final. This time actually losing to the Netherlands, who of course they'd lost to in the group as well. Beat Germany as well. Martin Omar still banging in goals. Worth having a little look at him. Probably retired by now, but he did get 96 caps in the end. Played a lot of his career with Juve after that move. I wonder if he could have had so much more if he just got going a bit sooner, I feel like. But that looks fairly straightforward. Actually, that might not be enough. Losing 2 games to Denmark, that might not have been enough for them to qualify for the final stages here. But let's find out if that was the case, because of course they will be playing in World Cup qualifiers here. No, they didn't get to the Nations League there, but they did absolutely waltz their way to the next World Cup. I would love to see them in a World Cup final. That's what they're missing, I feel like, is a World Cup run. Come on, give me something. It's their last chance as far as World Cups go. Round of 16. To Turkey, and easily as well. 5-2 defeat there. Only scraped past the Netherlands. They just weren't cut out for the World Cup, it would seem. Just not at all. But you can start to see some of the guys we moved over right at the very end starting to make an impact. They actually played all 3 games in the same stadium. Then won every single match in their Nations League group as well. Surely this is the year they grab another one. There's not many years left. There's literally one more European Championship. They lose the Nations League final to France. Then look like they've gone unbeaten and completely 100% record in their Euros qualifying group. I feel like this is setting us up for one last victory and a European Championship win, or at least a big deep run. Come on, show me the goods. Hot damn. My disappointment is immeasurable and my day is ruined. They lost to Portugal in the group and then were knocked out by England in the second round. They really are feast and famine, aren't they? Great work in the Nations League, and that will bring us up to this year, where presumably they lost in the Nations League semi-final and in the 3rd place playoff to France. Of course they did, before absolutely battering their way through more World Cup qualifiers. So that brings us to an end in terms of that side of things. They won a Euros. They won 2 Euros. I like that they won one with both as well. I'm actually surprised that the stacked squad that they would have had in recent years didn't manage to repeat that, considering a lot of the sort of high 170s, 180s guys, but maybe they were just badly managed, it seems like it. The actual CAs and PAs of these players. So you can see, like, I mean, look at that. He actually reached it as well. Look at the stacked squad that they've got here. That's wild. Considering some of the players that are in here, I would have thought we would have seen more from them, frankly, when you look how good this is. But I guess when you're up against the world's best, that's still a great squad. So that begs the question of records over this period. Let's see if there is any kind of... I mean, obviously, Erling Haaland, most played in a season, 19 goals is ridiculous. The highest world ranking, obviously, that's for Sweden, of course. But still, they did get to 3rd, which is pretty impressive. Eli Ben Chitrit moved from Liverpool to Inter for 200 million. That seems like it's a deal that would normally go the other way, but that's huge. Yeah, no runner-ups in the World Cups. 2 European Championships, though. We'll take that 12 years apart. 1 Nations League, some runner-ups there as well, and a 3rd place. They won an Olympic gold medal. In fact, they won a couple of Olympic gold medals. In fact, 4 of them. That's kind of fun. 2 under-20... No, wait, in fact, yeah, 2 under-20 World Cups as well. A runner-up there too. No under-20 Euro Championships, surprisingly, actually. Some runner-ups, but nothing there. No under-17 World Cups, that could be defunct in fairness. Under-19 European Championships, they've cleaned up at, and loads of French invitationals, but they didn't seem to do it at the slightly higher age levels, weirdly. They sort of skipped over the under-21s. It was like all the under-19 players, maybe they just went straight to the first team squad. So all in all, I'd say that was a pretty decent success, considering they actually won a major tournament in one of these, which is a rarity for my videos. If you've seen these ones before, the fact that they won the first one with the players we moved over as well makes me so happy, because I was not expecting that. I figured it was going to rely on the regens coming through to make that happen, and as it is, they actually only won 1 further Euros in that entire period with those guys, and that was a decent while ago as well. That was nearly 20 years ago. So either way, if you have enjoyed this video, drop a like. That'll be fabulous. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. If you do want to see that World Cup version with the teams outside the top 120, see whether they could even qualify for a World Cup, let alone win it, then let me know. I've got some other crazy stuff coming up soon. Most importantly, we're going to be doing a video where we basically have made a Champions League, but it's only got entries for teams in the second tier of their nations, and it actually works. So stay tuned for that in the coming weeks. I'll see you guys soon. Enjoy the rest of the Euros. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.